Good evening. Before we begin today, I'd like to invite everyone to look around and appreciate the amazing group of family, friends, and faculty gathered here today. After such a challenging year, let this be a new beginning for us all and a sign that this community can endure anything together. We come together on this day to celebrate the incredible accomplishments of the class of 2021. May we take full advantage of this moment to look back on all our successes, as well as give thanks to those who have helped us along the way. Please bow your heads and join me in a moment of prayer. Lord, as our time at Pace draws to a close, let us give thanks to those who have made it so exceptional. To the faculty, who have worked tirelessly to ensure that each and every student has the opportunity to thrive in the classroom, as well as creating a supportive environment that makes Pace feel like family. To our families, who have been alongside us the whole way, selflessly sacrificing their time and sometimes sanity to give us the path to becoming the well-equipped future leaders we are today, and for filling us with the unconditional love and support that gave us the confidence to take action. To the class of 2021, who have banded together like family through thick and thin to get to this moment, who have been there to cheer on each triumph as well as pick each other up when we fall. May the lasting bonds and friendships created here serve as testament to the strength of our community. Lord, we thank you for blessing us with the opportunity to thrive and grow in all aspects of our lives, and for being the guiding hand that led us along the way. Thank you for gifting us with a community of love and support at a place that drives us to be the best people we can be. May you continue to bless us with the courage and wisdom to lead empowered lives and honor you. In your name we pray, amen.
Please be seated. Thank you, Stephen, and welcome. I cannot doubt, you get some idea of what it's like to be the opposing fans at Walsh Field with the sun. I cannot tell you how excited I am to welcome each and every one of you and to see your faces and to be here in celebration of the class of 2021. It's really, truly an extraordinary evening for us and weekend, and as we all know, they are quite remarkable, each and every one of them as a person, and together they are even more of a force. Our baccalaureate service is a tradition that we have had since the school began in 1958. The school was founded by an interfaith group of parents who believed that we were better when we were diverse. And it is from those diverse and different faith traditions that we celebrate and give thanks for our graduates today. And it's our pleasure to have as our guest speaker today one of our own parents, Tony Sundermeyer, who will be introduced by his son. But I just want to first thank Tony for taking the opportunity, because it means a lot to have a guest from the clergy who's so influential and has so much to share. So I really want to thank him for being a part of this. And finally, at the end of the ceremony, it is also a tradition that the dean of the class bids farewell. And I know that that is something that the class and the parents hold very dearly. So without further ado, I welcome you, and we will get started. Thank you.
I am reading from 1 Samuel 17:32 through 40. David said to Saul, "Let no one's heart fail because of him. Your servant will go and fight with this Philistine." Saul said to David, "You are not able to go against this Philistine to fight with him, for you are just a boy, and he has been a warrior from his youth." But David said to Saul, "Your servant used to keep sheep for his father, and whenever a lion or a bear came and took a lamb from the flock, I went after it and struck it down, rescuing the lamb from its mouth, and if it turned against me, I would catch it by the jaw, strike it down, and kill it. Your servant has killed both lions and bears, and this uncircumcised Philistine shall be like one of them, since he has defied the armies of the living God." David said, "The Lord, who saved me from the paw of the lion and from the paw of the bear, will save me from the hand of this Philistine." So Saul said to David, Go, and may the Lord be with you." Saul clothed David with his armor. He put a bronze helmet on his head, and he clothed him with a coat of mail. David strapped Saul's sword over the armor, and he tried in vain to walk, for he was not used to them. Then David said to Saul, "I cannot walk with these, for I am not used to them." So David removed them. Then he took his staff in his hand and chose 5 smooth stones from the wadi and put them in his shepherd's bag. In the pouch, his sling was in his hand, and he drew near to the Philistine.
I'll be reading from the book of Revelation, chapter 21, verses 1 through 6. Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth. For the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and the sea was no more. And I saw the holy city, the new Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, "See, the home of God is among mortals. He will dwell with them. They will be his people, and God himself will be with them. He will wipe every tear from their eyes. Death will be no more. Mourning and crying and pain will be no more, for the first things have passed away." And the one who was seated on the throne said, "See, I am making all things new." Also he said, "Write this, for these words are trustworthy and true." Then he said to me, "It is done. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. To the thirsty I will give the water as a gift from the spring of the water of life."
Good evening, class of 2021. Our family moved to Atlanta 7 years ago when my dad took a job at First Presbyterian Church of Atlanta as the senior pastor. Since then, he's become an active member of the greater Atlanta community, currently serving as chair of the board for Presbyterian Homes of Georgia. He's also a board member of Columbia Theological Seminary, Midtown Alliance, and the Piedmont Conservancy. He also serves on the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Committee here at PACE. Now I'd like to introduce my father, a man who can't stand the Dallas Cowboys as much as he loves the Philadelphia Eagles, and a man who has taught me how to live life as a hardworking, humble, and honest person who cares for others, Tony Sundermeyer.
Well, friends, good evening. It is a real joy to be with you tonight. The class of 2021 obviously has a big piece of my heart, and so Fred, thank you for the invitation to be a part of this baccalaureate service. And Johnny, thank you for introducing me. Your mother and I love you, we're proud of you, and we're so thankful for the light that you bring into our lives and into the world. As Johnny mentioned, our family started at Pace Academy. We came and moved to Atlanta in the summer of 2014, and we were living just outside of Philadelphia at the time, the city in which I was born and raised, hence the fact that I'm a diehard Philadelphia sports fan. Well, about 1 month into our move, the Philadelphia Phillies were in town to play the Braves for a 4-game series during the first weekend of September. I went to the series finale, and the Phils beat the Bravos 7-0. But don't worry about that, because the Phillies finished dead last in the division, as they typically do. Anyway, the day after the game, I was having lunch with a couple who were considering membership at the church. We met downtown, and upon learning that they were big Braves fans, I proceeded to gloat about the Phillies' win the previous day, and that 4 Phillies pitchers actually combined for a no-hitter. Now, it's not lost on me that this is not a smart strategy for church growth when you're pastoring in Atlanta, but I just couldn't help myself. Fortunately, this couple was extremely gracious, and they did eventually join our church. Well, as we were leaving this restaurant, we walked past the bar area, And there were two men that were engaged in a conversation, and they caught our eyes as we were leaving, and they recognized one of my hosts, and they called out to him and said, "Hey, Pete, how's it going?" He returned the greeting by saying, "Hello, John. Hello, Frank." And we stopped, and they started talking to one another for just a few minutes. Now, I was standing right next to them the entire time. The entire time they were having this conversation. And I was just a few feet away from these two gentlemen. But my hosts did not introduce me to these two men, which seemed a bit odd and, to be candid, a bit impolite. We walked out of the bar area, turned the corner, and when we were out of sight, my host stopped and he turned to me and he said, "Tony, you might be wondering why I did not introduce you to those two men." I said, "Yes, Pete, that was a little peculiar." He said, "The reason I didn't introduce you to those two men was because that was the general manager and the president of the Atlanta Braves, and I was afraid of what you might say to them." I thought that was fair. Well, the class of 2021, what I want to say to you today is inspired by one of the most famous stories from the Jewish scriptures, the tale of David and Goliath. I chose this story because whether you're religious or non-religious, whether you're a doubter or a believer or somewhere in between, this story has incredible import. The faithful and the scrawny and the courageous shepherd boy named David is the only person in all the land who is willing to face the menacing and dangerous titan from Philistine known as Goliath. And right away in this story, immediately in this story, we're invited to consider an irrefutable truth about life, that we will face giants. Class of 2021, I suspect that you already know as much. I suspect you already know this truth because you have, over the course of these 4 years, faced some giants. You faced the giants that have challenged your mental health. You faced giants in the death of a loved one, the giant of prejudice or injuries and illness, the giants of loneliness or self-rejection or disappointments, the giant of divorce in your family, uncertainty about the future, seemingly insurmountable obstacles, and all kinds of loss and hardship. You have faced some giants. You faced the coronavirus pandemic, the pandemic of political hostility and division within our land, and the pandemic of rooted racism in far too many spheres and sectors of our society. You have faced giants. And you'll have to face some of these same giants again and again and again. And make no mistake, there'll be other giants you'll have to face. There'll be new giants who will be just as formidable and imposing as the ones you have already encountered. One element of this story that I invite you to consider is how David actually faced his giant. For he did not take up armor or sword or shield. He did not take up what was typical for one to take up in a battle such as this one. Instead, he took up what was unexpected. He took up, the writer says, 5 smooth stones. 5 smooth stones, plucked from a dried up riverbed. And David faced this giant, his giant, with these stones. So the class of 2021, I'd like to invite you to think about the journey that is ahead of you beyond Pace Academy, and to think about the giants or the challenges or the opportunities or the crossroads that you now face or the ones that you will face in the days ahead. And I invite you to consider to take with you in your shepherd's bag that which might be unexpected to you when facing giants, to take up 5 smooth stones. What I'd like to offer in the time that I have remaining is just a simple invitation to consider 5 particular stones that you'll take with you in this next chapter as you face the giants that are in front of you now and are yet to come. And the first stone I'd invite you to take with you on your journey is the stone of meaning. right? You know this, human beings are meaning makers. It's in our DNA. But meaning, class of 2021, doesn't happen automatically. We choose to make meaning of life. We choose to make meaning out of the beauty and the brokenness, out of the gains and the losses, out of the joys and the sorrows. Meaning is not automatic. In fact, meaning is strategic, it's intentional, it's thoughtful, and it asks important questions. When I was 16 years old, my father died of mesothelioma cancer. He was 46 years old, the same age that I am today. That time in my life was confusing and scary and deeply, deeply sad, as you can imagine. My dad was a faithful man. He was a humble man. And on the day of his viewing, about 1,000 people lined the streets to pay their respects to our family. And I remember this so vividly. I was at the head of the casket. I was standing next to my younger brother and my mom, and I looked out to the line of people that had come to visit with us in those hours. And then all of a sudden, I heard it. I heard it. It was the voice of God, not in an audible way or in a creepy, weird way, but in a still, small voice kind of way, something that I heard within the depths of my being. I heard this voice say, "Tony, I want to use you the way I used your dad to bring good into the world." That was it. Didn't hear that I should pursue this major in college. Didn't hear that I should pursue this profession. Didn't hear that I should make this choice. What I heard, rather, was an invitation to make meaning in the midst of this difficult circumstance, to make meaning in the midst of sadness and in the midst of grief, to make meaning out of this death, and to be intentional about how that meaning would eventually guide me to the major I would choose and the vocation I eventually embraced in my life and the choices that I've made ever since that day. And I believe the same is true for every one of us. By God's grace, we are empowered and called to make meaning out of life. And I invite you, class of 2021, to be intentional with that, to be intentional in your meaning making and how you interpret and to understand the events of your life, and to find stones of meaning so you know exactly who you are and what you're about, especially when you have to face the giants. The second stone I hope you'll find in the days ahead is the stone of contribution. It's been said that there are two types of people in the world. There are fountains and there are drains. There are givers and there are takers. Choose to be a fountain. Choose to be a giver. Choose to be a contributor. Choose to think beyond yourself. Choose to pay attention to those who are on the margins, those who are invisible to society, those who have been silenced or left behind. Choose to show up where you're needed and choose to serve. A few weeks ago, right here on this track, PACE alum Kenny Selman came to cheer on our boys and girls track team. As many of you know, Kenny holds several school records for PACE track. His name is right on that board over there. He went on to run at Chapel Hill, where he was an ACC champion and an All-American. And he's currently right now training for the Olympic trials in June out in Oregon. In the track and field world, Kenny Selman is a pretty big deal. But what you need to know about Kenny Selman, this PACE alum, is that he is a fountain. He came to the regional championships, and he came down to talk to the team. He didn't have to do that. He came to give them a little bit of encouragement. He didn't have to do that. He took pictures with the team and cheered them on throughout the entirety of the race day. At one point, when the hurdles needed to be set up right here where you folks are sitting, Kenny came over and he started setting up hurdles for the next race. Now, he is one of the top 400 hurdlers on the planet. He doesn't normally set up hurdles. And yet here he was doing what needed to be done. And it struck me that that is the core character of PACE alum. Looking to contribute where they can, looking to serve where they can. And so for this next chapter, I hope you'll find the stone of contribution. I hope you'll choose to be a fountain and not a drain. I hope you choose to be a giver and not a taker, because the more givers we have in the world, the math works out that the less giants we will actually have in the world. The third stone I hope you'll discover is the stone of imagination. Cultivate a vision for what is possible. See the world for what it is and imagine what it could be. When my wife Katie and I were in graduate school, we lived in Germany for a year, and we got to know a man named Volker Weber. And at one time, Volker was in the German intelligence ministry and in West Germany. And in early 1990, a few months after the wall had fallen and the communist government had crumbled, Volker was charged to take a small group of soldiers into former East Germany and investigate intelligence houses as a reconnaissance mission that would be helpful perhaps to the emerging government that was coming into focus. Upon coming to one of these houses, his group made their way to a basement, and they found a secret door. They opened that door and they drew their guns and they opened that door to see another door below a flight of stairs. And so one soldier rigged that door with explosives and blew the lock, and after the lock was blown apart, these soldiers moved in and experienced a complete and total moment of shock. The team came to discover 20 beds, a food closet with enough rations for 2 years, and 20 East German soldiers living in this underground bunker. What was most amazing about their discovery was that these East German soldiers were still taking orders from Moscow. They had a single phone line, and it was a direct line to the Kremlin. Moscow was delivering orders to these East German soldiers like the wall was still up, as if the world hadn't changed. And Volker said to them, "Friends, the wall is down. A new day has begun." The East German soldiers could not imagine such a reality. Everything they had expected of the world and from the world was being totally and completely upended. Another world was forming, another world was being imagined. And to receive it, they would have to come up out of the basement. They'd have to leave the old world behind and embrace an unknown future. Class of 2021, I hope you have the courage to come up out of the basement, of the houses that the generation before you have built. I hope you hang up the phone line that says, "Well, this is just how the world works, so get used to it," or "This is how it's always been." I hope you find the courage to imagine a world with fewer giants, less destruction, less loss, less loneliness, and less tears, like was described for us in Revelation 21. I hope you have the courage to imagine what is possible and to find the fortitude to come out of the basement and work for and receive a new world. I hope you discover the stone of imagination. The fourth stone I hope you find is the stone of community. For this next chapter in life, I really hope and sincerely pray that you find your people, and not just the people you're going to party with. That's going to be super easy. I hope you can find the people you can purpose with. I hope you can find the people who you share a vision and value with, to find people in your lane. When I went to college, I had this sense that I needed to find my people, and I found my people among the philosophers and the theologians and the friends to the poor and the friends to the brokenhearted, and with pursuers of justice and peoples whose faith came down out of ivory towers and actually was courageous enough to walk the earth. I found that lane with my people in college. I discovered my community, and in the process discovered more of myself and more of my purpose and more of who I was called to be. And I discovered one of the most important things you can discover when facing giants, that you do not have to do it alone. You do not have to do it alone. That we are indeed better together, especially when we're facing giants. The fifth and final stone, and I'll close with this, is the stone of self-acceptance. I want you to hear this, and if there's nothing else that you remember from this talk today, I want you to remember this one fact, that you are worthy of love. That you are worthy of love. I want you to let that sink in. That you are worthy of love. That you're worthy of acceptance. That you are seen and you are valued. The scriptures say clearly, I praise you, for I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. And you are. You are fearfully and wonderfully made in your strengths and your weaknesses. When you best the giant and when the giant bests you. When you succeed and when you fail. I know I speak for every parent and every family member and every faculty member and every administrator here today. We love you and we want you in this world and we want you facing the giants. We believe in you. We are your champions and we want you to find that stone of self-acceptance. We want you to accept that you're accepted by God and you're accepted by all of us. There will be times, make no mistake, that you're going to doubt this truth. That you're going to doubt your value. That you're going to doubt your worth. There's going to be times of failure and times of mistakes and times of sin and times of misdirection. And that's precisely why you need this stone. It reminds us that we can accept ourselves and love ourselves because we are already accepted and we are already loved, full stop. And so find the stone of self-acceptance, because without it, believe me, the battle is already lost. 5 smooth stones. Unconventional resources we take with us to face the giants and the crossroads and the challenges and the opportunities that await us. Class of 2021, I hope you take these 5 stones with you on the journey ahead. The stone of meaning, the stone of contribution, the stone of imagination, the stone of community, and the stone of self-acceptance. I'm praying for you, and I wish you the very best in all the days ahead. God bless you, and amen.
This is my fourth Dean's Address at a Pace Academy Baccalaureate. One might assume they get easier to write and deliver given so much practice, but they don't. It's been exactly the opposite experience for me. I have historically followed a standard template, reliable pace traditions like the 9th grade retreat and the final 12th grade Spirit Week provide a general framework. Vivid memories of the class's start at Camp Skyline and its near end during Spirit Week create a logical arc to both the upper school experience and then my speeches. It goes without saying, COVID blew this possibility away. No saving the best year for last. The typical experiences that truly highlight the personality of each graduating class and culmination of its journey, particularly during the Thursday night Spirit Week sleepover, aren't something I can draw from as I paint your picture for you all. When I asked Miss Anderson how I might actually tie up our experience in a pretty bow for everyone tonight, she quickly responded, "You can't." Of course, she was right, and this fact has been highly problematic with respect to my speech writing. Class of 2021, you truly represent a collection of the most special people I have ever met. Each Pace Academy graduating class has its place in the school's history book. And if I'm being honest, and I'm going to be, some chapters in our Pace book are better than others, and yours is one of the best ever written. It's not just because I'm biased, it's quite simply fact. Of course, we did begin our time together apparently over-enrolled, but that issue worked itself out swiftly during the first 2 years. Class of 2021, even at your worst, you've still been the best. So how is it possible you haven't gotten Pace's finest of final years? If you had, the speech would have written itself. Such was not meant to be. Our playbook was taken away without warning, and we were given no replacement. Still, if I've said it once, I've said it hundreds of times over the course of the past 14 months. If ever there were a class that could handle this unprecedented time in its senior year, it's you, the class of 2021. But how then best provide you the send-off you deserve? I really don't know still, and as usual, I'll start where it all began. I remember your 9th grade retreat as though it were yesterday. The first indication you all represent something unique and special relates to what didn't happen at Camp Skyline. Larry, the director of the camp, didn't have his typical meltdown. Having been on the retreat twice prior, I knew that at any moment he was going to get annoyed by something relatively trivial, and when he did, we were all in for it. His abrupt and colorful explosion would leave you all standing in stunned silence, hardly breathing, while the chaperones would begin anticipating incoming parent phone calls. But Larry kept it together the entire weekend, and we emerged unscathed, likely for the first and last time in the history of Camp Skyline. That alone was a true indication of your glory. On the second night of the retreat, I spoke to you around a campfire, the traditional dean's first address, and it was as awkward as I thought it would be. Well over 100 of you sitting and standing somewhere in the vicinity of a really small and inconsequential campfire. Only those close in were illuminated by the fire. Those of you even the slightest distance away were in the shadows. Most of you were completely invisible somewhere out in the dark. The overall experience in current day can be likened to delivering a speech on Zoom, all attendance with cameras off. No hint of true connection. Let's say our time at the pit was a little bit of the pits, whatever, blew that off. I tried, that was the pits. For about 5 minutes, I talked to you about the number 21. During a lifetime, we experience a lot. We remember a lot, we forget even more. I informed you that one thing we never forget is the year we graduate from high school. So in the absence of anything super relevant to say to a sea of strangers who were, very understandably, more interested in Cheetos and Snickers that night around the campfire, I talked to you about the number 21. I told you that for the next 4 years, 21 needed to be your favorite number, and I encouraged you to start thinking about what your legacy might be as the class of 2021. In reality, I knew my words wouldn't inspire, nor would they have any impact on our 4-year trajectory. The fact is, each year of the upper school experience has predictable hallmarks, and any attempt on my part to get you to act differently or essentially mature more quickly was completely useless. In August of your 9th grade year, you have no plan. Your parents have a plan, your teachers have a plan, 9th graders have no plan. Deaning 9th graders is like herding cats. I say, come on guys, let's go this way, and you all head that way. 10th grade is usually the year of the attitude, though most sophomores are well on their way to figuring it out academically. Eye rolls, blank stares, and a lack of enthusiasm are the norm. Finally, the junior and senior year, a plan, a goal, a sense of maturity, a sense of humor, an appreciation for sarcasm, a sense of responsibility and the ability to take responsibility, a prevailing acceptance of and appreciation for those that are older and wiser. We're not in your way. We are, in large part, your way forward. The list goes on. In short, so much awesomeness to enjoy in the junior and senior years. So it's crazy to look back on that night 4 years ago when I remember so vividly and now know how it would actually play out. Things went sideways. Your memories as they relate to 21, your year of graduation, will now be very different than I anticipated. At this historical point in our lives and in our PACE careers, it's hard not to focus on the unfortunate losses because during a time when so much begins to come together in the junior and senior years, so much fell apart. Still, despite a different sort of ending, we've experienced many highlights and victories, and I again attribute this to the excellence of the class of 2021, along with the strength and unmistakable goodness that is the PACE Academy community. It is true that in a life of PACE Academy, there is no such thing as a typical day. There's no such thing as a typical week, a typical year. For sure, it's one of the main reasons I love teaching here. It never gets boring. Each day brings new magic and sometimes a serious headache. On the other hand, there is a true predictability that comes with school life. In the upper school, as we journey through our 4 years, we anticipate so many PACE rituals, some of the most significant and anticipated of which come during the senior year. They truly mark and celebrate your summit, the coveted finale of your PACE experience. This year, the most impactful of these rituals have been more limited. Still, you are gracious and resilient and adjusted with understanding and acceptance of this new sort of experience that would be your final year. Another true testament to you. We are blessed with this chance to be together in person this year, and you made the most of this opportunity. It was more challenging, and emotions were heightened for sure. During the past 14 months, my lows were far lower and my highs not nearly as high. I felt everything from pure desperation, grief, panic, and hope, to panic, to hope, gratitude, and calm. As you know, I've invited you all to share with me some details about your experience throughout the year. The following represent your responses with respect to emotions you have experienced: anger, sadness, regret, happiness, stress, anxiety, hopelessness, loneliness, annoyance, disappointment, frustration, numbness, hopefulness, confusion, anticipation, nostalgia, gratitude, fatigue, toughness, isolation, exhaustion, carelessness, mourning, uncertainty, melancholy, longing, thankfulness, regret, optimism, determination. Reading through your descriptors didn't surprise me. Your words brought me quickly back to Zoom last spring. I remember the first week of quarantine. I actually thought Zoom was kind of fun. I remember telling one of my classes enthusiastically This kind of feels like a big slumber party. I enjoyed meeting all the PACE pets, looking at the artwork on the walls in student rooms. I even got myself a Zoom t-shirt. I mean, I can handle anything for 2 weeks, but reality set in. So did the panic. The pandemic was not going anywhere for a long time, and then the stark reality of racial injustice and obvious national fracture elevated exponentially the trauma. So much collapsing simultaneously. Many of you began reaching out to me in a similar state of upset and panic. I have the most vivid memories of a Zoom meeting with one of you all snuggled in your bed crying. I remember calls from you, worried about a friend and needing a friend, and subsequent Zoom meetings with groups of you to try to bring a smile to a face in need. I remember feeling so out of control and helpless. I really only had access to my 9th grade students on a daily basis. I had no reliable and consistent access to you all, my coveted charges. Knowing well I needed to occupy my time to ease my anxiety, I found other ways to distract myself from the reality that was testing me. I began taking a book and a journal with me on my frequent fishing outings with my son Spencer. I would sit on the dock over a lake and read and write while he fished. Every once in a while, he'd catch one and yell, "Mom, come take a picture." And I'd yell back, "Get it off the hook and back in the water before you kill it." And then go back to my distractions. I also started writing you letters in the class of 2021 conference. I actually think it's likely that most of you haven't even read my letters, but it didn't really matter to me. Every time I pressed send, I felt immediate relief at the thought I might have made some connection with you. Many of you also began to fill your hours with new pastimes. And again, you shared with me in your survey responses that you started painting, learned to use Photoshop and Illustrator, made a garden, discovered golf, learned to play the guitar. You started journaling, took long walks with your mom, created art, made new friendships with people in your neighborhood. You found your love of the river and nature, started writing a novel, began biking. You learned a new language, took a cool online ancient Greek class, read a lot, and discovered your passion for working out and cooking. Reading about your new pastimes brought a smile to my face. At a time when such limitation and upset were imposed on us, you were busy expanding your horizons. I have, since I met you, known that you would all do great things, but your ability to do so at a relatively young age and during a time of such adversity is remarkable. I admit I did not discover my love of working out, but I did decide I was going to learn to cook, and I am pleased to report my chicken nuggets are now better than ever. I too read a lot. In all honesty, most of my reading didn't offer distraction. The decision to work harder to actively combat racism in its various destructive forms was easy for me. Working to educate myself to truly be successful in doing so was anxiety-provoking, but essential and with good reason. My relief valve in so many situations has always been reading children's books, which some of you here know I love. Lots of pictures and minimal words, but often the most impactful of messages. One I came across during quarantine is called The Lost Soul, which gives you some insight into my frame of mind at the time. Page 1 of the most brilliantly illustrated book reads, "If someone could look down on us from above, they'd see that the world is full of people running around in a hurry, sweating and tired, and their lost souls." The rest of the book is devoted largely to nothing but pictures that tell the story of John and his lost soul. He eats alone, drinks tea alone, gazes out the window alone, and probably looking for something. It's not clear how long his apparent isolation continues, but in the end, his soul, in the form of a small child, shows up at John's door. And as John's world comes back to life, black and white illustrations now vivid with color, John promises to be very careful not to do anything too fast so that his soul can always keep up. I hoped and prayed that my soul would also return all of you again at my doorstep. There were silver linings provided us during this unprecedented time. Like John, I realize that so much in our fast-paced lives provides unnecessary and ultimately unhealthy noise. I've shut a lot of noise this past year. I have prioritized what truly matters to me and have worked hard to provide myself the necessary tools to really engage with and in my priorities. And I know I have the strength to live more happily in my quieter, more meaningful, and focused existence, my soul intact. Additionally, as many of you know, I have 7th grade twins, Eric and Spencer. I joked with your parents at the 11th grade parent gathering that I was opting out of their middle school years and would be sending them to boarding school for a bit. Ha, either that or quarantining with them for 14 months. As it turns out, it's been amazing. I played, among other things, way too many games of Uno and Trash with my son, Eric. Not the most stimulating of card games, but I still loved it. It wasn't really about the cards. And I was gifted the last 6 months of nonstop struggles with my cat, Nathan, who, by the way, was 21 years old when he finally walked across the Rainbow Bridge this past fall. You shared with me some of your silver linings. You grew close to your mom. You found more happiness in things historically taken for granted. You realized what is truly important to you, quality time with people. You became more self-reliant, realizing that happiness comes from within. You learned what is truly important and where your passions lie. You learned to enjoy being alone, focused more on yourself, and took better care of yourself. You learned what is important and what not to dwell on, how to appreciate each day rather than take things for granted. You became more independent, more centered. You now know who your true and valued friends are. You learned that you are mentally much stronger than you thought. You learned being alone is not so bad, grew closer with your siblings, and are now grateful for the little things. You realized self-worth and understand that you are your own person and nobody can change this. Reading your account provided me true peace. How important yet unique to learn at your age, the strength that lies within, and the importance of recognizing those we truly cherish in our lives. Despite our limited access to each other, we were all able to maintain connection, maybe not in the usual ways, but in equally valuable ones. Though our access to community has been diminished over the last 14 months, it's been there all along. And especially as the color returns to our world, there is plenty to suggest that our community has strengthened and will likely continue to do so. When my husband and I were engaged, he gave me a cassette tape of meaningful songs. Cassette tapes, just so you know, are now extinct, but in prehistoric times, they played music until the ribbon got all bunched up in your boombox. At that point, my generation wasted way too many minutes with a pencil wedged into the smokes of the cassette trying to rewind the forever damaged ribbon. The end game was always the same, another cassette tape in the trash. Anyway, one of the songs Jason put on the tape was a Billy Joel song called "You Are My Home." The meaning behind this beautifully simple message is obvious, even without hearing the song. Home is not a structure, home is a person. I have held this sentiment close throughout my quarter century of marriage, but in this year, I've learned a lot. And one thing is for sure, home for me is all of the people that I carry in my heart, not a single person. Each one of you is part of my home. It's truly impossible to express what you all mean to me, both in our years together and our seemingly eternal months apart. You have been part of my home. Parents and faculty, this includes you. Parents, I have missed you. Pace has not been the same without you walking the halls, sitting in the library, at the front desk, dropping off something at student affairs, in and out of the college office. I am thankful to have walked through these years with you. I am thankful for your gratitude, support, and wisdom. I truly value you. Thank you for sharing your kids with me, and I hope we can stay in touch. And to the faculty here with me, I would not have made it through this without you. Never have I been more grateful to have you as friends and colleagues. Thank you for loving and shepherding these seniors, my kids, through the past months. Thank you for making me laugh, helping me get perspective when I needed it, and picking me up when I fell hard a couple of times. You are a true gift to my life. Faculty, the seniors shared their similar thoughts of gratitude. They wrote to you, "I appreciate you coming to school every day despite the risk to your health and effect on your personal lives. You have made my experience incredible. You have been amazing through the pandemic. I want to thank you all, even those who taught me in my earlier years. You all are the reason PACE has felt like home for 13 years. You are brave for coming to school every day and believing in us while knowing the risk of COVID. Thank you for teaching with your hearts. I have always loved you as my teachers, but during quarantine, I realized how much I truly love spending time with you. Teachers, I know this was all extremely difficult to you, so thank you. Thank you for your help and dedication to braving the unknown with us. You always put the students first, which is amazing. Thank you for making my childhood amazing. I will miss you so much. You have had a really big impact on me both in and out of the classroom. Teachers, I wouldn't be here without you today. I am so grateful for your dedication to making our senior year as normal as possible. You are stronger than I ever knew. Teachers, I dedicate who I am to you. And parents, this is some of what your kids asked me to share with you. Mom and Dad, I am grateful for your help and support during these times. I wouldn't be in the place I'm in now without you. I genuinely want to thank you. Mom and Dad, I am so thankful that life paused for a moment and I had the ability to spend months on end with you. I don't want to say goodbye. I love you guys, Mom and Dad. Mom and Dad, I never realized how much I was going to miss you. I am extremely thankful to you, more than words can express. I'm going to miss being able to have your support to fall back on and at any moment. Mom and Dad, I never thought I'd have to say goodbye. I'm scared and sad, to be honest. Mom and Dad, you have made life so worth living. I know how much you love me. Mom and Dad, I'm going to be okay. Class of 2021, I found more of my soul on your prom night. Watching you walk up the stairs from the back parking lot, looking dashing in both beautifully traditional and uniquely awesome dress. Your excitement and ambivalence were obvious. You wanted to experience a deserved and typical senior year prom, yet after a year of unprecedented and accepted sacrifice, it was clear so many of you wondered what was really in store that night. You were good sports and showed up, and then it wound up being the best of proms. The spark came back for hours, and I watched you dance and laugh and live in a way that you truly deserved, and in a way that I think we had all worried and assumed wouldn't happen. Then came your senior prank. I got a text on Tuesday night. Would it be okay to fill the school with 2,500 ducks for everyone to arrive to on Thursday morning? Permission to fill the school with rubber ducks. This must be a prank on me. Time for follow-up questions. Like, do you mean rubber ducks super glued to the floor and the walls? Swimming in the toilets and getting clogged when they flush? Are they really rubber or are they real? No, just rubber ducks everywhere, and a big pool in the garden, which I really wish were right there right now. Honestly, what the duck? Okay, go crazy. At the end of the day, the only prank, if you can call it that, was you got a second gap day, absolutely and unexpectedly brilliant. You got to swim, listen to music, skip class, and the rest of us ran around collecting the cutest ducks ever, a self-cleaning senior prank. And then Gap Day, your parents finally back and able to be part of the senior parade and morning assembly. Helicopters and consequently angry neighbors unable to consequently concentrate during their backyard tennis lessons, a water fight, and the pool. Only about 10 of you in this class might remember that my time with you on the 9th grade retreat began by being shoved into a pool at Camp Skyline. And full circle, it ended with me doing my first cannonball in 30 years into a pool with most of you all 4 years later. The color in all of its brilliance came back to my world, a day I will never forget. Class of 2021, we are all reunited in one place for the first time in 14 months to say goodbye. My mind tells me that I should feel thankful to have been blessed with this opportunity to spend graduation weekend together as a complete Pace Academy class. My heart is not there yet. My heart feels our reunion should represent the beginning of an opportunity to make up for lost time. What I do understand is that our reunion is a true indication that we successfully and wholeheartedly accepted Mr. Gannon's creed. We accepted that this year was not about us, it was about others. And because of our commitment to keeping others safe, we successfully gifted ourselves an entire academic year in-person learning and time together. And though selfish me wants now to have a redo so we can all enjoy your finale, complete with our missed and coveted senior rituals, I do know full well that if given the chance to come back for a redo, you would reject this option. It's time for you to go. You are ready. You know it. It's time for you to fly away. We took the road never traveled through your 4 years, and you're still ready to go. Truly ready. I suspect for some of the most important reasons, you are even better prepared at departure. Despite our losses, you have likely come out ahead with respect to lessons in humanity and personal characters like inner strength, resilience, introspection, gratitude, goodwill, positivity, and perseverance. Class of 2021, now finishing my 21st year of teaching at Pace Academy, I can tell you this has been one of the most challenging, but without you it would have been a heck of a lot worse. Though this goodbye is uniquely difficult, it's also joyful. I celebrate and recognize you for the countless ways you have awed, inspired, and achieved in the past 4 years, even despite recent adversity. Even in a year that largely silenced you in a way that most classes are given a platform to be heard, you led beautifully by example. I am so proud of you. I am truly blessed to hold you in my heart, and I hope you will come home frequently. Still, quarantine has taught us how to be together even when we are apart, and I know this will continue across the miles. As you head off in all different directions, may all of your hopes and dreams come true. Today, you are surrounded by a Pace community of faculty, friends, and family who love you and are eternally proud of and thankful for you. From the bottom of our collective hearts, we wish you only the best that life can offer, knowing that when life throws you a curveball, you are well prepared to handle it with strength and grace. Class of 2021, home is another word for you all. I miss you already. Goodbye.
Please bow your heads. Dear Lord, with this opportunity, I would like to thank you for all the blessings granted during my time at Pace Academy. I have been so lucky to experience icy jail trips, wonderful faculty, amazing friends, and even a helicopter ride in these 4 years. You have given us this day to rejoice in the good work we have begun as graduates. We trust that you will see this work to completion in the ages to come, and so we ask your blessing. May you inspire us to act with integrity, speak the truth with love, and pursue justice for all people. May you stir our hearts to seek the common good, compel us to forgive our enemies and friends alike. May you keep us far from evil, rescue us from harm, and restore us to wholeness when trouble comes our way. May you give meaning and purpose to our work, bring joy and new life to the people we meet, and provide wisdom to discern what is right. May you transcend all understanding, calm our fears, relieve our doubts, and sustain us with hope. And may God's blessing be upon us and remain with us forever and ever. Amen.